สวัสดีค่ะขอต้อนรับคุณผู้ชมทุกท่านเลยนะคะกลับเข้าสู่ช่วงบ่ายของงาน Social Enterprise Thailand Forum 2021 นะคะก็สวัสดีท่านผู้ชมทุกช่องทางเลยนะคะที่ชมอยู่ผ่านทางเว็บไซต์ goosociety.network นะคะผ่านทางระบบของ Zip Event เองหรือว่าจะชมผ่านทาง YouTube Live ของ SE Thailand นะคะงานของเรานะคะวันนี้เป็นเพียงวันแรกเท่านั้นนะคะเรายังมีอีก2วันที่เหลือก็คือวันที่20และ21วันเสาร์อาทิตย์นี้นะคะสำหรับช่วงบ่ายวันนี้นะคะต้องบอกก่อนเลยนะคะว่าวิทยากรของเราเนี่ยมาจากต่างประเทศกันทั้งนั้นเลยนะคะโดยมีผู้ดำเนินรายการเป็นคนไทยคอยหน่วยความสะดวกถามคำถามให้นะคะเพราะฉะนั้นแล้วนะคะทุกท่านที่กำลังฟังอยู่ตอนนี้นะคะทุกท่านจะได้ยินเสียงเป็นภาษาอังกฤษนะคะหากท่านผู้ชมต้องการที่จะรับชมเป็นเวอร์ชั่นภาษาไทยนะคะมีผู้แปลภาษาให้สามารถดูได้ที่ลิงก์ในช่องแชทด้านล่างนี้เลยนะคะทีมงานของเราจะส่งลิงก์ให้ทุกท่านเข้าสู่ห้องซูมเพื่อไปรับชมภาษาไทยได้เลยค่ะแต่สำหรับทุกท่านนะคะที่ฟังไปอยู่ตรงนี้นะคะพวกเราก็จะฟังเป็นเวอร์ชั่นภาษาอังกฤษไปด้วยกันนะคะย้ำกันอีกครั้งหนึ่งนะคะงาน Social Enterprise Thailand Forum 2021 เป็นส่วนหนึ่งของงานที่ชื่อว่า Good Society Expo 2021 นะคะ Hope in Crisis ค่ะในวิกฤตยังมีหวังนะคะ Hope ขออภัยค่ะ Good Society นะคะเชื่อว่าเราทุกคนนี้นะคะมีพลังขับเคลื่อนสังคมไทยต่อไปได้แม้ว่าในช่วงเวลาที่ยากลำบากค่ะเชื่อมโยงความหวังนะคะร้อยพลังไปด้วยกันไม่ว่าอยู่ที่ไหนของมุมโลกก็มาร่วมงานได้เพราะว่างานของเราเป็นงานสัมมนาออนไลน์นะคะจะทำงานขับรถทำอะไรอยู่สามารถเปิดฟังพวกเราไปได้พร้อมๆกับการเก็บเกี่ยวความรู้ถ้าเกิดว่ามีไอเดียดีๆเกิดขึ้นเพียงไอเดียเดียวนะคะก็เรียกได้ว่าคุ้มค่ากับการเข้าร่วมงานตลอดทั้ง3วันนี้แล้วนะคะค่ะวันนี้นะคะดิฉันขออนุญาตพาทุกท่านนะคะเข้าสู่งานวงเสวนาวงแรกกันเลยดีกว่านะคะกับหัวข้อ The Ecosystem for Social Enterprises นะคะ Challenges and Opportunities for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia นะคะอย่างที่เรียนแจ้งไปนะคะพวกเราตรงนี้จะได้ยินเป็นเวอร์ชันภาษาอังกฤษนะคะถ้าอยากได้ยินเวอร์ชันภาษาไทยกดที่ลิงก์ในห้องแชทได้เลยนะคะถ้าติดปัญหาตรงไหนถามทีมงานได้เลยนะคะก็ลำดับต่อไปค่ะดิฉันขออนุญาตแนะนำผู้ร่วมเสวนาทั้ง4ท่านนะคะแล้วก็อีก1ผู้ดำเนินรายการนะคะผู้ร่วมเสวนาท่านที่1นะคะก็คือคุณเดวิดลิมค่ะ Manager Social Innovation Magic จากประเทศมาเลเซียผู้ร่วมเสวนาท่านที่2ค่ะคุณโกเมอร์ปะตองนะคะ Program and Development Cooperation Specialist of the Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia ประเทศฟิลิปปินส์ค่ะและผู้ร่วมเสวนาท่านที่3ค่ะคุณกิยงจงปาร์ค Team Leader of Resources Matching Team KoSEA จากประเทศเกาหลีใต้ผู้ร่วมเสวนาท่านที่4ค่ะคุณฮุยหยูออง Lead Collaborative Financing Race จากสิงคโปร์และผู้ดำเนินรายการวันนี้ค่ะผู้ช่วยศาสตราจารย์ดร.พิษวดีกิจปัญญางามนะคะอาจารย์ประจำคณะพาณิชยศาสตร์และการบัญชีมหาวิทยาลัยธรรมศาสตร์ดิฉันขออนุญาตมอบเวทีนี้ให้กับดร.เกตนะคะเป็นผู้ดำเนินรายการต่อไปได้เลยนะคะเรียนเชิญค่ะ
เดี๋ยววันนี้จะมาดำเนินรายการซึ่งหลังจากนี้เป็นภาษาอังกฤษนะคะ Philippines, South Korea, and Singapore. Today, I'll be moderating the session of the ecosystem for social enterprise. Mainly, we will focusing on how each countries and the government and also private sector can help supporting and growing the SE sector in each country. And also, we will explore the key challenges and opportunities both in Asia. So, I would like to start with David, perhaps from Magic. Would you like to share some maybe short information about how the government supporting Magic and what kind of organization of Magic is in supporting the SE sectors, as well as how you actually define the SE definition, basically because in each country would have different definitions and how you categorize them so that you support the right persons or the right organizations and how the Magic fit in basically. So okay. Please go ahead. Yep.
Sure. Thanks, Kate. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon from Malaysia. So I'm David from the Social Innovation team in Magic. So what Magic really stands for is a Malaysian Global Innovation and Creativity Center. We are a government agency under the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, MOSTI in Malaysia. So essentially, we serve two main ecosystems. One is the technological-driven startups, and another part is the impact-driven social enterprises. So the interventions that we have from Magic is including capacity building like boot camps, workshops, and accelerators. We also provide funding. So recently we launched a matching grant programs, but we also match the social enterprises and social startups to the impact investors as well. Besides that, we also provide market access. So one of the programs that we are doing right now is called Buy for Impact, where we provide the market access and market exposure of social enterprises to the corporates and for their awareness on what is social procurement. We also work closely with the government ministry in terms of public social procurement. And last, we also provide the connection of the whole ecosystem as the government agency that's spearheading the social enterprise ecosystem. So referring to what Gate was asking earlier, what is the definition in Malaysia about social enterprise? It's officially defined by our accreditation guidelines. It is the registered entity that has a business model and also with proactively making a social or environmental impact towards the society or environment as a whole. And they do have a very sustainable business model as well. So we will do the due diligence to verify that they have business model, they have impact at the same time, and that they are doing beyond just a CSR activity. So these are the accreditations that we go on. And so this definition is still a working definition. It's not really gazetted in law, but it's a working definition that we're working in the guidelines at the moment. Yeah.
Right. It's very interesting that actually the Magic itself supporting startup both in the innovation and creativity sector and as well as the social sector.
Correct.
And also matching the fund with the private sector as well.
Yep.
That I think later on we have some topic that we talk in depth about it as well, right?
Yep.
So when you talk about the social procurement, is it like the legal requirements that the government is like putting it like, you know, to support the SE, or is just the trend that most of the organization is doing?
It's actually both at the moment. So recent budget announcement for 2022, the government has actually already enforced that all ministries will prioritize their buying from social enterprises. So we are working closely with the relevant ministries and the agencies as well to onboard them. Because right now, although it's expanded to all the ministries, we still require a lot of awareness workshop to onboard the social enterprises and also to onboard the ministries to understand what is social enterprises and why this procurement would make a difference to the community and environment.
Right. So how do you define that this company has the social impact, perhaps? Because there'll be like many providers that would like to take this opportunity to support the government, you know, to become the provider as well.
So one of the key definition that we have for the criteria is that we have to see whether they have actually achieved at least 15% of the business cost is actually driven to social impact or environmental impact. We will look into the profit and loss accounts and where do they spend the monies into the impact-driven activities. But also we look at what are the impacts that generated. So they might have spent a lot of money, but they are not generating enough impact, then it might not be classified. Or they might actually spend a little money, but they generate enough impact to the communities, then we might take into consideration. So it's quite, it is a fixed criterion, but we are judging case to case because we are still working towards more data to be collected so that we have an official definition eventually to classify it and not really filtering out any impact-making social enterprise eventually. Yeah.
Right. Very interesting that this would help a lot of the social enterprises in the country to open doors.
Yeah.
To the market, whereby also, yeah, and also the funding. Do you provide both like the seed fund and the loan, or what kind of schemes that you are providing in that moment?
Currently, our mandate is actually just to provide the matching grant because our agency mandate is not actually to invest in the social enterprises, but we would direct them to other agencies that's actually focusing on seed funding or actually equity investment. So from our agencies, we mainly only provide the grant, and it's only one-off. It depends on the availability of the funding from the government. Yeah. Our main target actually from the agency is to provide the capacity building opportunities like workshops or teach them how to measure the impact and report the impact and provide them accelerated programs. Then we match them to other fundings. But in terms of grant or equity investment, it depends the availability of the funding from the government itself.
Right. Very interesting to learn that you have some mechanisms as well in measuring the impacts and also helping each SE to measure so that they can fit in the ecosystem.
Yes, definitely, because we realize that I think a lot of social enterprise, they are not too good in telling the stories out there to the corporates that, beyond just spending $1 or $1 on their products, they are not just creating economic values, but also the social values to have providing a long-term employments to the communities or even protecting the environment in the long term. So these are the stories and the narrative that we want to actually spread it out there to the consumers.
Right. So after launching all these programs, do you see the higher survival rate of the SE within the country?
Yeah, I think especially the funding programs during the lockdown that we have launched, that actually significantly helped most of the social enterprises to survive and to expand or transform themselves digitally into adopting like software or even platforms to connect with their beneficiaries, to keep training them or to actually sell the goods online. So we realized that these are very necessary in the pandemic time, and we will actually do more in terms of technological transformation for the social enterprises or social startups in the long term.
Right. Or maybe you can link the tech startup that you support already with the SE within the same ecosystem as well.
Correct. Or even actually see the social startups from the start, that they embed technology mindset already from the get-go. Yeah.
Right. All right. Thank you very much. That's a very quick wrap up and, SE in Malaysia in a nutshell. So next, let's go to Mr.Gomer from the Institute for Social Enterprise in Asia, ISEA, which I believe in Philippines, SE is growing very, very fast and very spread out. So would you mind let us know, what is your organization is doing and how it fits in the SE sector, and what's your goal, and how you actually boost up this sector to become very successful in Philippines? Please, Mr. Gomer.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me well, Peter. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, PK, and thank you, SE Thailand, for your invitation to join you this afternoon. I am Gomer from the Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia. ISEA is a learning and action network set up by social enterprises, social enterprise resource institutions, and scholars to catalyze knowledge creation, capacity development, and platform building for social entrepreneurship in Asia Pacific. On the question on definition, PK, you alluded that social enterprise or social entrepreneurship is flourishing in the Philippines. You're correct, but there are no direct national policies intended for social enterprises in the country as of today. The concept and practice of social entrepreneurship are emerging in both private sector activities and government initiatives, but it is still yet to be legally defined as well as formally institutionalized. There is, however, a current effort from social enterprise practitioners and support institutions to lobby for dedicated legislation for the sector, consolidated by the Poverty Reduction for Social Entrepreneurship or PRESENT Coalition, and sponsored by some senators and representatives of Congress. A bill called the PRESENT Bill proposes a policy that promotes an environment conducive to the development and growth of a vibrant social enterprise sector engaged in poverty reduction, economic and social development. If passed and implemented, the law will push for the adoption of social enterprise as an inclusive growth strategy in development plans of the country, institutionalize training and education in social enterprise development, encourage research, as well as increase accessibility of funding and facilitate the market integration and expansion of the sector. In the Philippines, social enterprises use a variety of legal forms and organizational models. The most common are micro, small, and medium enterprises, non-government organizations, cooperatives, microfinance institutions, fair trade organizations, or sector and area-based enterprises. In the absence of a dedicated social enterprise policy, we assume that the policies affecting these types of organizations impact social enterprises as well. Over to you, PK.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Gomer. I would like to know a little bit more of how, for example, because ISEA is very big organization. After I hear from you that they do many things, including providing the platform as well, and the courses, and even the data for the knowledge management for everyone. So I wonder, like, for example, if I'm just a normal person who want to set up the SE in Philippines, if I walk into your organization, do you have any programs for me to how to start with it? I mean, what kind of support that ICR would do?
We have capacity building courses offered in cooperation with the Ateneo de Manila University, who actually hosts ICEA currently. We also have advisory with our technical and business support colleagues. Also, in terms of joining platforms, we also offer spaces where you can speak to other social enterprises in the sector or in areas where you can find collaborative opportunities.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Gomer. Next, we would like to move to Mr. Park, South Korea. This is also another interesting organization whereby I have personally interviewed Mr. Park, I think 3 to 4 years ago, regarding the progress of how the South Korea and KoSEA supporting the growth of the SE sector. And by that time, you said that South Korea were about to launch more acts. Initially, you have one act already regarding the social enterprise supporting and promotion. You said there'll be 3 more acts that will be launched by that time, which I believe now those acts has been launched already to actually pushing forward, not only to grow the SE sector, but also to actually move the Korea economy to the social economy, which boosting the social ecosystem within the economy itself. So would you like to share a bit of what South Korea is doing, KoSEA is doing, and how you support the SE to grow to become the social economy as well, please?
Thank you for having me. My name is Gyoung-Jung Park, Research Metric Team Leader of Korea Social Enterprise Promotion Agency. Please slide. Okay. I'll talk about later what KoSEA is doing for social enterprises. In Korea, social enterprise defines by the law. So Social Enterprise Promotion Act. So social enterprise means an entity that pursues a social objective aimed at enhancing the quality of life of community residents by providing vulnerable social groups with the social services or job opportunities, or by contributing to the communities while conducting its business activities. Okay. And you can see the social enterprise relation with other types of organizations, like other commercial enterprise. Social enterprise conducts business activities, and it seeks social value and makes social impact, like MPO. Both characteristics have to help the social enterprise. And it seeks social value and makes social impact. But the characteristics such as reinvesting profits for social purpose and democratic decision-making are to be equipped to be certified as social enterprise in Korea. As of today, the number of certified social enterprise amounted to about 3,000, and its number of employees reached about 60,000 people. Out of them, vulnerable groups took about 60%, 30,000 people are working in social enterprises. Okay. And I want to briefly explain about the policy in Korea. And policy delivers are divided into 3 parts for social enterprises. The Ministry of Employment and Labor manages social enterprise policies based on Social Enterprise Promotion Act, screens and issues the certification of them, and also it revocates some of them which fell under the requirements too. Additionally, makes an enhanced social enterprise support projects provides financial support such as social insurance fees. And our organization, Korea Social Enterprise Promotion Agency, supports social enterprise with their business consulting, receives their business report, and learns integrated social information system. And also we support incubating program for social enterprise startups. And also we receive certification applications directly and conduct site inspection too. And lastly, there are regional social enterprise support centers. They support locally specialized social enterprises. The designation and management of their local preliminary social enterprise and help local authorities to provide financial subsidies. And they also counsel and consult for designation of preliminary social enterprises too. These are the delivering system of policy in Korea. And I also talk about what the public sectors are doing for social enterprises. The public support may fall into three categories: exploring and fostering social enterprise, and strengthening self-supportability, and spreading values of them. The first, exploring foster social enterprise, we incubate and foster social enterprise startup teams. We promote people who have creative business items with the inclusive support such as office space, funds, mentoring, training, and so on. And to explore outstanding models of social enterprise, we have held social venture competition every year. So far, we have fostered 5,000 social enterprise startup teams. And also we explore a couple of thousands of social venture ideas through their competitions. And we are supporting certification of them too. To strengthen self-supportability, we have provided basic and expert consulting opportunity to enhance public and marketing capability. And we support sales channel and promote public purchase for social enterprise. And also we spread the values of social enterprise across the country. We hold social enterprise week event, support the partners between commercial enterprise with social enterprises, promote volunteering activities for them too. And we monitor and evaluate with their SVI, Social Value Index, and we run integrated information system for social enterprise. We can congregate all the information for the social enterprise to survey what the impact social enterprise is for our society. That's pretty much about what Korea is doing for social enterprise. I'm done.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Park. It seems like the Korea has done a lot of homework and has been creating the inclusive support. This is the word that you use, right? Inclusive support. This is the thing that you are doing now, like in the picture that you do, like the investment fund, the PR marketing, management consulting, and all these things, labor subsidies. Is it part of the government legal system, the acts that you mentioned that it's been launched during the past few years, or it's been on for like quite a long time as part of the former acts that supporting the SE growth?
We still working on the 3 new laws. It's still ongoing because these days we are undergoing presidential election. So,
right.
And so both parties are complicated. There are complicated issue about the social enterprises. The radical party is support social enterprise, and another party is not support social enterprise. So this is very important moment for Korea social enterprise. So, and basically, Fortunately, the social enterprise, the value of social enterprise, most people agree about the value of social enterprise. So even the counterparty also to try to enact another type of act for the social enterprise. They try to enact their own law for social enterprise. So both two parties are ready for help social enterprise too. So I think it is a very good portion for social enterprise and social economy in South Korea. And I would explain about the 3 laws that we are going on. Okay. The first law was the Framework Act on Social Economy. So through this law, the Korea aims to build integrated ecosystem for the social economy. There are corporates, social enterprise, and rehab company, and also there are community company too. These social enterprises are supported by their own ministry. The rehab company is supported from the welfare ministry, and community company is supported by administration ministry, and social enterprise is based on the Ministry of Labor. So by doing so, developing an integrated implementation system for the social economy, we believe that the supporting system for the social enterprises will be efficient, and there will be more collaborations so that the benefit will be helpful for the people in South Korea. The another one is proposed one is Framework Act on Realization of Social Value by Public Organizations. It tries to cause public organizations to actively take social value into account when they implement their policies. And we expect with this law, there will be more collaborations with the social enterprises if it's enacted. And lastly, there are special act on marketing channels for social economy enterprises. This emphasizes on the importance of the public organizations' preferred purchase for social enterprise product and services. Now we are there are policies for the preferred purchase for the social enterprise. We put the public organizations buy more social enterprise product and services so that they can share the value of social enterprises, that they can hire more vulnerable people, and there will be more social enterprise, and they can create more social value with the social enterprise. These 3 laws are still going on. That there are more conflicts between the major 2 parties. So there is something that the Korea Social Enterprise Promotion Agency, we are trying to mitigate both parties to enact those 3 laws. We're still going on.
Right. Wow. Thank you very much for the insightful information regarding how the government or KoSEA actually supporting the social enterprise and pushing forward the 3 more acts to actually build up the social ecosystem as a whole. So I think Beijing, Malaysia also moving towards this direction as well by just now David was sharing about the social procurement through ministries, right? Yeah. So let's move to our last speaker, Ms.Hui from RES Singapore. RES is I was told that it's the government linked company which is very interesting how the Singapore government trying to support the SE sector through the government link. So would you mind sharing more about what REST is and how the government is supporting? Is it actually run by private sector joint with government? No, I'm not sure actually, but we'll explore today and know today, and how REST is supporting the SE sector within Singapore. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My name is Ms.Hui and I'm from the Singapore Center for Social Enterprise, or RACE for short. So we were set up in 2015 to develop the SE ecosystem and nurture the growth of SEs in Singapore. Currently, we have over 360 SE members, and our vision is to build sustainable SEs that can help make Singapore a more caring and inclusive society. So in Singapore, we see SEs as business entities with a clear social mission, meaning that they are dedicated to allocating resources to fulfill their social objective, right? And at the same time, they should also aim to make a financial profit, not only to be sustainable, but also to expand and scale up their impact. So in this diagram here, we see that SEs sit in the middle of a spectrum where you have charities on one end, funded mostly by donations, philanthropy, or the government. And on the other end, you have profit maximizing companies that sometimes have CSR activities on the side. But in general, for these traditional companies, social impact is not at the core of their mission. So what is interesting to note is that SEs can be registered in different legal forms, including companies limited by guarantee, limited liability partnerships, or private limited. And for us to evaluate whether any of these entities is a social enterprise, by our definition, we actually speak with them to try and understand, first of all, if they are creating social impact, and just as important, if their business model is a viable one, validated by the market. So on the impact side, they should at least dedicate 20% of their resources to achieving social goals. An example would be where the SE is making a conscious effort to employ beneficiaries, and they make up at least 20% of the company's staff. And as for business viability, they should show that at least 50% of their revenues come from sales or trading income. So of course, these are just rough benchmarks to indicate the level of intention, right? When it comes to delivering impact beyond ad hoc projects. And at the same time, to show that they can survive in the market to sustain themselves entirely through their own business streams eventually. So we have definitely come across aspiring SEs that may not have yet met this criteria. So for them, we can provide a provisional membership for a year for them to establish some form of track record of social impact before converting them to a full membership. Yeah, that's it for slide.
Right. Thank you very much. Actually, I cannot see the slide clearly, but just now. So just the scope of the race, right? Do you actually focus on only the SE in Singapore, or you actually focus on any SE around Asia as well? For example, if I'm the SE in Thailand and I would like to get some help or funding, or should I go and register in Singapore, or just the scope that REST is doing?
So we are a membership body, and to qualify as a member, you have to be a company based in Singapore. Yeah, so in terms of the support that we are able to provide, this would be local social enterprises. I mean, but we do, in terms of supporting on their growth and expansion, we do, encourage them to expand in the region, to meet the needs if that's in their social objective. So going back to your question just now also about how we are quite a unique organization in the sense that we are government linked, but we are not under, we are not part of the government, but government linked in the sense that we are funded by the government, but we are actually made up of a private sector board. Yeah, so we actually enjoy the benefit of having like perspectives from both the government sector and also from the commercial sector. Yeah.
Right. And do you also do like the investment, like management of fund inside the the organization as well?
Yes. So in terms of financial support, besides grant funding, we also have a portfolio of investees, and for those we provide a convertible grant. Yeah.
So just wondering, because in Thailand there's also many investors that would like to invest in SE, but to actually have the full data or to get the information of how to actually invest in the right SE, it's not as easy as only investing in normal company, because they want to explore more of the social impact and all those things. What kind of criteria that you use in this platform that you're doing?
So what we have at Raise is we've created this social value toolkit, right? So this toolkit actually maps the areas of social impact in Singapore. Say for instance, access to education, access to affordable healthcare services for the vulnerable groups in Singapore. So the vulnerable groups also could be like people with disabilities, ex-offenders, different vulnerable groups. And so we're actually actively always working on a pipeline of investable social enterprises. So internally, we also group our members by their growth stages, whether they are at the seed stage, early stage, growth stage, and even the mature stage. And depending on what different investors are looking for in terms of the passion or impact area they want to support, the ticket size, even the type of investment, right? Sometimes it could be for a longer term. Sometimes it's maybe venture philanthropy that they're looking at. So because we are quite small and nimble, we're able to facilitate all these like conversations and networking in quite a quick and effective way. Yeah.
All right, that was the first round of questions, and now we are entering the second round, whereby to fit in this forum theme, which is where profit meet purpose, whereby how you actually how each country find the matching or support from the private sector to help social enterprises. Because just now what we have been discussing is mostly support from government, that trying to help with the social procurements through the ministries or some seed fund, some loans with less interest, some platforms, some programs, or capability buildings for all the SE that come from partially from governments. So, but I believe, for example, David shared also a little bit that talk about how the private sector can do the matching investment in the SE. So, may I get to know more information about how the private sectors helping SE in each country, please? May I start with David?
Yep, sure. So I can share that there were two initiatives that we did with the private sector. The first one was we closed the matching grant back in July earlier this year. It's a social impact matching grant where it was actually supposed to help the social enterprises recover from the pandemic. So this grant was open for early stage all the way up till even late stage, where they are trying to expand themselves in Malaysia or even beyond. And so this grant is is in its first time where we are actually matching the resources that they crowdfunded from the private sector. So let's say like if the social enterprise got the donation or they got the grant funding from the private sectors or corporates or even the state agencies, then we are managed to match them. So this is one of the ways that we are thinking of how do we actually generate more values that is invested into the social economy system in Malaysia. So further on, later this year, which we got the budget for this year, special budget, which we actually had a social impact challenge accelerator, which we are having the demo day next week. So that one is running together with 5 problem statement sponsors, which is a very demand-based and based on the problem statements suggested by our 5 key problem statement sponsors, which are from corporate investors and also the state agencies background. Because we realized that accelerators could not just be running based on solely investors' kind of point of view or perhaps a very broad agenda of SDG. It has to be based on specific demands from the ground, from the investors or from the corporate itself, that eventually when they graduate at a demo day, they can be matched and partnered together with all these corporates. So this is another part where we think the corporates or the private sectors can come in to support us. Besides the procurement program that we're running, which I mentioned just now is Buy for Impact. This is actually, we are running awareness programs with different corporates as well, in terms of how they can spend each dollars to buy and generate impact to the community and the environment itself.
And do you have any support from the government, for example, because in Thailand, I can share a bit of some schemes that, for example, for any private sector who donate the grant or invest in the SE, they may get some of the tax benefits or any benefits, so that it gives them more motivation to focus more on the SE instead of only investing in the company that make money.
Yes, correct. So actually, we have a very similar tax incentive last year, where it is based on donation tax incentives as well, very similar to what Thailand having. But right now, it's being put on hold for revision. But through the recent budget announcement, there are new tax incentives for the income tax incentive for the social enterprise itself. So right now, the agency and the ministries are working closely into finalizing the details and even revising the criteria. Do we need to tighten it up because it's an income tax incentive? But we are really, really celebrating this good news because it's a tax incentive that can be enjoyed directly by the social enterprise and to encourage them to make more, in a sense, income and also funnel back the profits to the beneficiaries and the society as a whole. So this is a really great big news. Another one is in terms of the government procurement policy, which expand and actually prioritize the buying from social enterprise, which we launched the pilot phase last year. And next year, we will be actually launching the full phase, which actually involve all the ministries to prioritize their buying from social enterprises. And that is really a really big celebration for the ecosystem. But of course, a lot of work's to be done because the awareness still has to be captured by the ministries, and also the systems in terms of public procurement system still have to work on the details.
And how about the private sector if they want to buy something from SE as well? Would it count as social procurements and can they get any benefits from the government?
That was in our proposal, but so far that is still in consideration by the government because I think the key ideas is we want the social enterprise eventually to get the benefits first, and then we will expand beyond and to see more data, then we will consider perhaps further if Ministry of Finance wants to expand the tax incentives further. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for the information. It's very good news for Malaysia to have this thing is in the pipeline already. Yep. So let's move to Mr. Gomer. How's the Philippines private sector is doing when they come to supporting the SE, which is growing very, very quickly in Philippines, please? Would you like to share?
Yes, the private sector engagement in terms of dealing with social enterprises have been in the areas of capacity building, technical assistance, as well as financing, similar to what David has shared to what's happening also in Malaysia. But just to go back to the support from government, I would just like to add that in the Philippines, the present coalition also had dialogues with government agencies to explore social enterprise stimulus packages and programs as a strategy to support the recovery of the poor and marginalized sectors, together with the social enterprises during COVID-19. As a result of these dialogues, the coalition unearthed government programs and services that social enterprises could avail for recovery and building back initiatives. We also started coming up with a COVID-19 social enterprise recovery initiative, which is a sector-led initiative to engage government and the private sector in terms of coming together to support social enterprises during the pandemic. Yeah, that's what I can share from the Philippines on private sector engagement. Sorry, you're on mute, PK.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself.
Okay.
It seems like I read from some news that there are also some foreign companies that going into Philippines as well to to help and supporting the SE in Philippines, and somehow like not as like famous the bag design that made from garbage or something that being supported by international brands collaboration. So is the government is trying to support more of these collaborations, or any schemes or any policies to grow this kind of collaboration? So
it's actually silent on the government side on collaborations with social enterprises. As I have said earlier in the earlier intervention, we still do not have any government policy, a national policy on social enterprises in the Philippines. So these are still based on policies that are around the these are policies around the legal forms and organizational models that these social enterprises have. So, for example, if you are a cooperative, you are supported by the cooperative code in the Philippines. If you are an MSME, you are supported by the Magna Carta on micro, small, and medium enterprises. And it's correct that there are a lot of international organizations coming to the Philippines to support social enterprises. We also see homegrown support organizations that are now trying to move from basically in the city centers. They're now trying to move away from the city centers as well, and support social enterprises in specific regions, for example, in the BARM, in specific provinces across the Philippines. It's very unfortunate that while it's very fortunate that while we don't have any social enterprise policy, the space is really flourishing and growing.
Right. I think a few years ago we were sharing the session with Mr. Park and some representative from Indonesia. I think they were in the same situation as Philippines, whereby there's no government support at all that much compared to other countries, but their SE sector is flourishing just like what Philippines is doing. So that also show how how SE small and medium or micro size can actually become very strong and growing with their own capability. So next, please, I would like to move to Mr. Park from South Korea, KoSEA. Just now you were sharing lots of important milestones from the government perspective, how SE sector is being boosted up and how being supported and how to grow to be the social economy in South Korea. Now, apart from that you have shared, do you have any examples or any schemes, programs that show the private sectors in the in South Korea also coming in to support? I believe that Samsung, for example, they have done a lot of things in this area as well. So we like to share more of how the private sector is supporting the SE growth and social economy, please.
Okay. Please slides. Okay, slide please. There has been a variety of support for social enterprise in the private sector too. For the big company like SK Group and Hyundai Motors, Samsung Electronics, in the early days, trend was to establish social enterprise by themselves for their own social value. And these days, the trends moved from building social enterprise to build infrastructure for social enterprises, such as incubating program or funding programs. One good case is from SK Group. They measure social values the social enterprise is creating, and they reward it as much as they created social values. We call it social progress credit. They give the money according to their measurement. And lately, it's not just about supporting. They try to create shared values by collaborating with the social enterprises. as a strategic partners. They some part of the product when they build some product, the big company, they put some they build their product with their social enterprise so that they can share, create the share value. And one thing also interesting is I want to bring here is by social campaign. Korea is attracting attention for its government center support policy, but on the other hand, we ourselves consider it is a kind of the limitation for the revitalizing the social enterprise economy. Therefore, we are planning and preparing a bi-social campaign centering on civil society. It can be seen as a pan-civic movement that allows civil society to recognize that the use of the social enterprise product is kind of activity that creates social value. So Korea's major civil society organization and social enterprise themselves are in the stage of the establishing governance and planning specific campaign programs nowadays. There will be a huge movement is going on as a civil society for the social enterprise.
So this kind of support, is it like supported by the government as well? Just now that in Malaysia, there's some new proposal in the law that the government or private sector would get some benefit out of it.
Actually, the civil society, like the normal people, are actually we want to make a way of participating, creating social value with the social enterprise by buying their products. So we call the buy social campaign. So we totally focus on it has to be based on the civil society, not by government driven. So the civil society organization like YMCA or YWCA or other major civil organization and their social enterprises also they are coming together and try to establish a governance body for this campaign. And they are still going on making the specific campaign programs, how to enlarge the awareness of the social enterprise for all the people in Korea by buying their products.
Right. Okay. One last question before we move on to Singapore. This question has been in my mind since the first round of questions, so I just have to get out of my head. I see that Korea or KoSEA supporting the incubating, the seed fund and inclusive support, I would say, to the SE in the very early stage. And also now the private sector would like to support as well. Is there any case that when they start, because when they start a business, somehow it's not the final business model. They have to adjust until they find the right business model. And along the way, what if they spin out and they adjust until they become the company that don't really make the social impact, for example, because they turn out to be just purely business, because it's been shifted. The direction of the company can be shifted during the incubation stage. So how do you manage this, and how many companies that turn out to be like this? Do you observe anything in Korea? Can you unmute?
Could you say it again? I can't understand what you're saying.
Right. Okay. Usually when the company starts up, their company, they aim to achieve some business model. And as you say that during the stage, they have to find out the creative model or business model to actually run and be sustainable during the incubating programs with all the supports that either get from the private sector or from the government sector. And apparently, after they have been adjusting their business models, they may not survive, or they may find out that they want to become only the profit-focused company. Because if they become the social, they may not be able to find the right business model. Is there any cases like this? Because after you give so much support, what kind of outcome that you get actually?
In Korea, we are actually trying to make the social value index. The government make a social value index in KoSEA, and also the private sector also make their own social value index too. And since we need to evaluate the social value, not like money, which is very hard to measure, evaluate and measure, and there are a lot of social purposes on each in the social enterprise too. So what would be there will be very difficulties on measuring the social value on each social enterprises. We still on the problems they're making the social values, they're evaluating, but we still working on. We are still evaluating some social enterprise every year, about 100 or 200 social enterprise companies. We are archiving the results, the the measurement, and we are still reporting our index is working correctly or not. We're still working on, and we are also try to not making not only for the social enterprise, also we are trying to make a index for the cooperatives and social ventures and other types of the similar social enterprises. We are kind of making some we still archiving all the information for the more accurate social index, so that we can use the measure. Okay.
Yeah.
And also we still the government body actually use SCBI to loan for the social enterprises. So yeah, we are doing the experimental conduct for the accurating the SBI, and we hope we can share the result, our effort for the measuring social value for social enterprises.
Yep. Thank you very much. In Thailand, we're also trying to do the same thing. We have a few platforms that trying to do the data collection on the impact index as well. So I think eventually we may be able to share some information as well. Right. Okay, let's move to the last one. Raised by Hui. Would like to share more information how the private sector in Singapore actually helping creating, and I'm not sure, not only the financial support, but of course there'll be lots of mentorship and incubating programs as well in Singapore to help the SE sector, please.
Yeah. So in Singapore, actually RAISE also works quite closely with our private sector partners to support not just financially and also non-financially for our social enterprises. So maybe I have the slide. Okay, yeah, thank you. So the first one, as part of our capacity building efforts, we actually work with private sector partners like consultants or audit firms to organize a series of programs and workshops for our social enterprises that need help in specific segments of their business or at various points of their impact journey. So what we want to offer that we have found to be incredibly useful is this exchange of perspectives from the different fields. So we bring to the SEs consultants who can guide them on market research, business advisory, consumer demand, or when validating their product or services. And even so, when we move on to the next point on grant funding, right? So actually, I would like to just add that it's beyond grant funding, but I'll elaborate on that later. So in terms of grant funding, we do have that from our Singtel as well as our banks. So Singtel Future Makers, they actually look for startups with innovative technological solutions, and they can support a cash pool grant of up to 150,000. Right. So, and social enterprises get to gain access to the knowledge and expertise from Singtel leaders and also cross-sector experts. And through their incubator program, they also get the chance to connect with business and community partners in Singapore. On our bank side, I understand that we also have grants of between 50K to 250K to support social enterprises as well. And besides grants, they can also provide social enterprises with business loans at preferential rates. So what I'd like to highlight at this point is that be it financial or non-financial support, what we have found to be useful for SEs is to really leverage on our partnerships in all three sectors, also beyond the private sector as well, right? So beyond the private sector, including the government sector, so we call it the 3P partnership. But so going back to the private sector, what we also have as part of our cross-sector initiatives, my third point, we also organize something called industry circles. And this is a series of roundtables and platforms that feature thought leaders or insight pieces from key industries. And at these industry circles, they will highlight market opportunities that intersect with social needs. And hopefully more corporate partners will find themselves closer to the social space and begin to learn how they can work with SEs, maybe say for procurement or even co-creating solutions for social issues. But what we are also interested to bring to the next level beyond incubator, accelerator programs or grant funding is really to see what's the appetite for collaborative financing among the private sector players. So here we want to explore the possibility of having blended finance models. Either co-funding an impact fund through a social impact bond or pay for success sort of adaptation, where we bring our network of social enterprises and their solutions to private sector players, see if it's something that they want to invest in or want to connect with to bring it to the next level.
Right. Thank you very much for you. Do you have any support from government as well to say if the private sectors, for example, you said Singtel and banks to come and give either the grants or the loans with the preferable rate? Any support from government to motivate these kind of companies that there'll be more type of company like Singtel to come and help supporting as well?
I think actually the support from the government comes through race. And the private sector support themselves would be from their own funding, either through their foundations or companies.
But the support in terms of like tax intensive for these private sectors, if they go for the support of the SE instead of supporting other tech startups that have less social impact, perhaps. Or
I think for them, it is something that's more of their own initiative in line with what they have marked out to be the purpose that's at the core of their business operations, rather than motivated by incentives from the government. Yeah.
Right. So it's more the corporate values that they
Yes.
they want to position themselves to support these kind of things. Right. Okay. Thank you very much for you. Now we go for the final rounds already. We have about I think 22 minutes left until the end. This round, we would like every speakers to share regarding the key challenges that everyone face in driving this sector forward within the countries. It could be the challenges that happened in the past and already overcome. So it'd be great if you can share how you overcome those challenges and or the future challenges that you think you're going to face, and perhaps your thoughts on that. So please, David, would you like to start?
Yep, sure. Thanks, Kate. So I think let's go with the past is, of course, just now we shared there are some incentives and the policies introduced more to support social enterprises. And this is really thanks to a lot of social enterprises who are very hardworking, not just in doing their business, but also advocating more awareness of social entrepreneurship among the civil servants. And that is why we had, about 2 years ago, we had the accreditation being launched. And then we have the donor-focused tax incentive for the social enterprise about 2 years ago. And of course, now that with expanding benefits to the social enterprise and also more fundings being poured in, it's really a lot of efforts has been poured in by the social enterprises on the ground, and also the civil servants who are really keen and passionate about all this impact. But of course, launching into the challenges that we face in the coming few years is, as the program is expanding, we have to actually cater to more awareness programs for the civil servants to understand what is social procurement. And also at the same time, we are trying to ride on a wave where there's increasing awareness of SDG and ESG in the country, with increasing budget as well allocated for SDG, particularly for next year. So we are trying to ride on the wave and also to spread the awareness of impact investment. And we realize that this is also good opportunities for us to have more challenges and accelerators to seed more social enterprises and support more of them to scale up. So awareness is one. Another one, I think the main challenge is still remain as a challenge since the start is the impact measurements. I think a lot of other agencies were mentioned just now, they have a social value standards and social value toolkit. For Malaysia's side, we are still work in progress. We have one social impact measurement toolkit, but it's a living document we are improving all the time. We are trying to actually develop it into a more like a social value or SROI kind of model, so that we can justify to the government as well for each ringgit they spend to build the social enterprises, what are the impact towards the community and the environment. So the impact measurement tool, we're constantly evolving and constantly improving it, and hope actually more stakeholders, including government itself, to actually adopt it to measure the social value of their policy and the procurement. The third part is we see there's great potential on technology itself, especially after pandemic being affected. There is a great potential, also great challenges for the adoption of digital technology or other forms of technologies like IoT or even AI by the social enterprises. So that's why the mandate next year for Magic or our new merged entity Meranti, we are focusing more on technology adoption to actually deliver impacts in the long term. So we're looking for more like agri-tech, food tech, and perhaps health and also education tech startups to deliver impact as well, besides the traditional MSME social enterprises. So technology is another one. The last one, actually, we do see funding side is quite exciting as well, because our national bank, the Bank Negara, is actually experimenting with different agencies and banks in terms of Islamic finance, how to blend it with cheaper financing for the micro entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs. So it's quite an exciting landscape to look at for next year. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. It seems very exciting for your next year in Malaysia. Right. Please, Mr. Gomer, would you like to share more of the key challenges that maybe you have overcome already, and or the challenges that you're facing in Philippines, please?
Yes, PK. Well, of course, there are a multitude of challenges as well as opportunities. And starting off from what David has been sharing, maybe my contribution would be to put a broader context to challenges faced by social enterprises. And this would be around systemic issues and barriers. The first one around access and control over resources. The second one is on the digital divide. And then the third one is around government laws, policies, and systems. both in its developmental role as well as in its regulatory role. And while we continue to explore these challenges and provide solutions to this, maybe let's look internally into the social enterprises. What are their contexts and influencing factors so that we may be able to address them appropriately? Internally, we need to look at the nature of the social enterprise and the social enterprise model, most especially before pandemic. The second one is the level of social enterprise maturity and the sustainability, including the diversity of income sources and the extent of digital and ICT integration into the social enterprise. Another one to look at is the nature and extent of partnerships or the relationships with resource institutions and even government. Next is the level of leadership or the organizational agility and entrepreneurial management competencies in the social enterprise. Of course, we also need to look at the nature and composition of the poverty sectors or the vulnerable sectors being served by the social enterprise, as well as the presence or the absence of a gender agenda. In terms of external factors, let's look at the nature of the pandemic and the national government response. We'll look at the nature and the type of product or service or value chains or economic subsectors where the social enterprises are situated. The nature of market and the distance from sources of inputs. We also look at the location and access of infrastructure support, including digital infrastructure, local government leadership, capacity and response, as well as the presence of social enterprise resource institutions, including non-government organizations and civil society organizations. And this is where we may find opportunities where we can actually address the challenges, looking at enhancing competencies in entrepreneurial management, maybe the need to develop new social enterprises. Of course, during the pandemic, some social enterprises closed already, but I guess the founders are already looking at different areas and different models, again, of social enterprises where they can navigate into. The need for a more enabling environment for existing and new social enterprises, including the capacity building on ICT and digital transformation, as well as the setting up of a social enterprise recovery fund. And then finally, the need to participate in societal transformation. Social enterprises cannot be separated from the broader process of societal transformation. It is essential that social enterprises and resource institutions participate in efforts to address systemic issues and barriers that impact on the sector for it to move forward and build back fairer, as we say it. Over to you, PK.
Right. Thank you very much, Gomer. It seems like we are facing technological disruption from the COVID, right? That now we are every country have to focus more on the how to bring digital or technology solutions to come to help SE as well.
Yes, particularly maybe it's more expressed here in the Philippines because we are an archipelago. We're separated into islands so that the digital divide is more pronounced and more felt.
Yeah, true. Geographically. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, please, can I move to Mr. Park? Would you like to share some challenges that KoSEA has faced and how you overcome it and all the challenge you're facing now so that you set for the mandate next year?
Yeah, okay. Through 15 years of implementing social enterprise policies driven by government, we have found some advantages and disadvantages.
อยากให้เราฟังความคิดเห็นของเด็กให้มากกว่านี้ค่ะเพราะว่าผู้ใหญ่หลายๆคนในสังคมไม่ได้ยอมฟังความคิดเห็นของเด็กขนาดนั้น
ผมคิดว่ามันเป็นข้ออ้างมากกว่าในส่วนตัวผมนะในฐานะที่ผมก็เคยเป็นวัยรุ่นมาก่อน
คือจริงๆในโลกนี้มันมีอะไรถูกผิดกันชัดๆด้วยเหรอผมคิดว่ามันคงไม่ค่อยมีใช่ไหม
อย่างตอนหาเสียงคุณมาบอกจะทำให้ดีที่สุดจะทำถนนจะทำไฟอะไรทุกอย่างแต่พอถึงเวลาโทรยากมากอยากจะมีเบอร์นายกจริงๆเลยค่ะ
ในท้ายที่สุดถ้าคุณไม่ฟังเขาอะแล้วเขาไม่ฟังคุณอะคุณจะอยู่ร่วมกับเขาในฐานะเพื่อนร่วมโลกยังไงอะ
พ
พี่ต่ายคิดว่านักการเมืองดีควรเป็นอย่างไรครับ
ถ้าเป็นไปได้เราก็อยากได้ที่แบบว่าเข้าถึงประชาชนอะระดับล่างรากหญ้าจริงๆเลยอย่างนั้นน่ะ
ปัญหาของสังคมนี้คืออะไรคะ
ความเหลื่อมล้ำอะไรครับ
ไฟถนนดับอย่างเงี้ยแจ้งไปเถอะอาทิตย์นึงละตามลำดับนะคะ3 อาทิตย์ละยังไม่มา
ถ้ามียศมีสีทำความผิดแป๊บเดียวมันก็เงียบ
คุณเต้ยคิดว่าสังคมไทยมีอะไรที่ยังเข้าใจ
Okay now it's back to normal okay sorry please go ahead
So advantages are securement of the quality of social enterprise and outcomes of policy in short term. So efficient management and supervision with the clarification of the policy target. But the disadvantages are that it can block innovative business to enter social economy because of the certification system. In this context, now we are considering policy change from certification system into registration system so that innovative company can register as a social company, social enterprises. And the more social enterprises are certified, the burden of the handling them gets bigger too. So we are trying to focus more on creating ecosystem to ensure sustainability than direct support. So the important thing here is the evaluating index. So we talked about earlier. There's a interesting experiment is going on. For example, if the cost of the recycling waste by the government is higher than that of social enterprise, it will be more efficient and reasonable for the government to utilize social enterprise than to recycle waste directly. This case can be a testament to the social value that social enterprise create. And this applies not only to garbage disposal, but also to business that care for the underprivileged. So if the social enterprise is efficient method to take care of the underprivileged people who are recycling waste, then the government would be better to use the social enterprise, right? So currently Korea is contemplating how to compensate for the value the social enterprises create through their business. This is what we are working on to combine with their policy for their social services for the people in Korea with the social enterprises.
Right. Thank you very much. It seems like also we share lots of key challenges regarding the social value and impact measurement as well. Now we move to Hui. What kind of key challenges that you're facing in Singapore in growing this sector?
So, well, we started journeying with our social enterprises 6 years ago. And between now and then, I must say we have certainly made some leaps, right? Because the pressing challenges today at the top of our heads now are no longer the ones that we started with back then. So when we started, it was about raising awareness of the social enterprise model. Now many people have an idea of what sustainability means and why it's important to be socially conscious. As opposed to before, we were telling people that, this cafe or that shop is a social enterprise, can come and get their products. But now we're beyond that. So today, our concerns actually revolve around supporting SEs in a bigger way, beyond labels, names, or definitions sometimes. We want to talk about partnering with SEs for the long run, right? We want to help them grow, not just to buy a product for the day. So, and the thing is, because these social enterprises, they have shown that they can survive the market and can rally others around their social goals. Right, they can rally the public. They can work with government partners to get their business out there. So how do we envision this partnership to look like in the next chapter, right? We want to invite corporates, foundations, impact funds to get more involved in the SE ecosystem in Singapore. And that's why we will be holding our inaugural Impact Investment Conference next year. So it will be a cozy gathering of big players in the impact investment space. They will share their experience, their insights on their own journey to inspire others who maybe are desiring to do more. And we know that because we have been having conversations with these potential partners. So in this way, we can help SEs to deepen their social impact, their business capabilities, and it will be something definitely beyond grant funding alone. Yeah. So I would say yes, the challenges are there, but with what we have lined up, I'm also excited to see how we are, forced to evolve to meet the needs of the ecosystem.
Right. Thank you very much. Let me conclude that we are now sharing some challenges or some pains together, I would call it, pain points, right? Awareness, but it seems like Singapore has gone beyond that already. But in Thailand, I can share that we're still struggling with some awareness as well, and as well as the impact measurements, and we are still like discussing, debating, that we try to follow SRI as well. Technology adoption also a key issue. I think we all face the same thing during COVID-19, that we have to get on the technological platform to survive financially, and partnership, which what REST is facing. Also in Thailand, we trying to bring more private sector to come and help this sector as well, because sometimes the government alone can help to a certain extent. So now we've got about 5 minutes. We have 2 questions coming up from the floor. One question particularly asks Mr. Park regarding, but I think it can be for other countries as well. That what kind of like trending SDG focus that the SE in South Korea are trying to solve, or any focus social problems that SE in the South Korea trying to focus at the moment.
It's about SDGs to UN SDGs.
Yes.
Actually, the Korean social enterprises not think about SDGs carefully, because our policy structure is very strong. They don't need to think about the SDGs. So, because they are thinking in our infrastructures, they're thinking their own way of creating the social values. But somewhat very interestingly, nowadays we are mostly talk about ESGs instead of the SDGs, because of because many big companies are emphasize on the ESGs. So they are trying to find out how to engage in ESG with their big companies in the process of their pursuing the ESG. They believe their big companies are they have the opportunity again can get collaborating with the big companies through these trends. But also some other they still think about we are not only in in South Korea, they also think about the other countries, especially on the ODA program. The South Koreans are try to spread the way of their operating their own social enterprises. Actually, they also trying to move the resources from South Korea to other countries, so that they want to the foreign country can accept the way of the social enterprise. They can operating their own business so that they can support themselves with their social enterprise, and they want to build social economy in other countries too. So these movements are still going on in South Korea too.
Right.
Yes,
right. Thank you very much. How about other countries? For example, in Singapore, what kind of like social problems that most of the SE are focusing? For example, in Thailand, I can share that we are an agricultural company based. So most of the SE that has been growing is to help the farmers, and either put technologies in or to help their life to become better, not to face the poverty because of the middleman and all those things in the chain, and also in the tourism industry and also education. Mainly in Thailand, these are the big social problems that we are facing. As a result, then there are more SE trying to solve these problems. So how about Singapore, perhaps for you?
Among our social enterprise members, the top impact areas that they're looking at is in the area of training and education. So we have a couple of more mature SEs actually looking at making education, even more accessible, maybe on a digital level or affordable level for the kids who may be from underprivileged or disadvantaged families. Yeah. So like most recent, because COVID has shown a spotlight on, like you mentioned, how we need to quickly pivot to use laptops, to use like iPads to continue learning in a conducive way, right? Being stuck at home, not being able to have a proper classroom or just a conducive space at home sometimes. We have actually helped some of our SEs pivot. We provided some funding for them to develop their own so-called e-learning platform with the worksheets, with teachers conducting their lessons online, even enrichment classes. Yeah. So yeah.
Right. So mainly education. How about Philippines, Gomer?
Yes. Similar to Thailand, PK, we're also around poverty alleviation, as well as hunger, but also towards SDG 8 on decent work, as well as SDG 5 on women. We have seen the emergence of a lot of social enterprises around these areas over the years, but really focused around still engaging the poverty sectors, the farmers, the fishers, indigenous peoples, out of school youth, etc.
Sure. Thank you. Now we've got 1 minute, David. Can you share with us?
All right. So I think similar to Philippines, we are at mainly is SDG 8 and 10 in terms of economic growth and also the inequalities, because most of our social enterprises are based in urban areas. So I think inequality is quite prominent in these areas. We have actually overall with about 400 social enterprises registered with us. They are about 80%. More than 80% are actually within the social impact or mixed between social and environmental impact. So there's quite a prominent angle over here. And the main target groups are mostly marginalized communities or the bottom income groups, and also like a single mother and I would say the refugee communities as well. So it's quite similar profile with everyone. But I agree with what actually Mr. Park was mentioning just now, is that it depends on each of the social enterprise, how they measure it. They may not tag to SDG, but it's on the macro side on the government that we tag it to SDG indicators. Yeah.
True. All right. Thank you everyone for today's sharing, and we have already spent 1 hour and a half to share what's going on in each country regarding the SE support, both from government, from private sector, and the key challenges. And I believe that the audience also learned together with us as well. So I'd like to thank everyone for your valuable times to come and share with us. And I believe that a lot of Thai people would learn a lot. So thank you very much, and looking forward to hearing more from each country in the next year mandate that you all set up to solve all the challenges. Okay, bye bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
สวัสดีค่ะ
Thank you ครับ
ค่ะขอบพระคุณผู้ร่วมเสวนาทุกท่านนะคะแล้วก็ขอบพระคุณผู้ดำเนินรายการด้วยนะคะเรียกได้ว่าระยะทางไม่เป็นอุปสรรคต่อพวกเราเลยนะคะเพราะว่าเหมือนยกทั้ง4ประเทศนะคะมานั่งพูดคุยอยู่ร่วมกันเลยนะคะได้แก่ประเทศมาเลเซียฟิลิปปินส์นะคะเกาหลีใต้แล้วก็สิงคโปร์นะคะ